Welcome to Water for the Thirsty. The beginning of year nine, the end of year eight. We're here. We're still doing it every first and third Friday. And with us tonight, we have the crew. Well, at least the fellas for now. The ladies, I hope will join us in a little bit. We are Courtney and Jerome, who's hailing out of Trinidad and Tobago. So the web has allowed us to come in. So we have the couch in the back, but we kind of on the virtual couch in here. I'm still here to study the word simply, the word refreshing. Still in the Bible reading plan. Going through it again another year. Seeing what the Lord has to say to us to refine us and make us more like Him and give us, practical ways to be more faithful and living for Him. So appreciate you guys joining us and being with us for another night. Kenrick, good to see you.
You too, brother.
It's been a while since we all connected. Circumstances didn't allow us to close out year 8 properly. But here we are at of year 9. So, as we do, can you believe that we're going to start 9? Can you believe
that? It's crazy, man. I was actually thinking about that last week or last time.
Yeah, man.
That we were coming to an end. Time flies when you're having fun, brother.
Indeed.
It's been good for me. So,
Jerry, this is what, year 2 for you?
Yeah.
How's it been, man?
It's good stuff, man.
How has it impacted you personally?
Authenticity, I think, for sure. Just getting more information and applying it so that I could actually be more impactful. Practical day-to-day stuff, not just, pie in the sky kind of. Nice. There's the theory of Jesus and then there's the real Jesus, yeah? This is real Jesus stuff, not just, yeah.
So how much of the conversations we have and what you read daily, weekly, how much do you actually think about and how does it impact you? Like, do you? Is it very practical? It's
very practical, and it's like the I was telling Jared this. He's very good at knitting things together. So once he gets a sense of where we all are, it's like his brain is like, okay, now everybody's here. I'd like to see you guys here, and he kind of knits it very neatly. So he's not pushing the conversation in a particular direction, but he's doing things that nudge us along to that point. And then everybody has the aha moments, and the aha moments are what I think stick, at least certainly with me, and allow me to apply it day to day, because it's like, there's just this week I was talking to someone and saying, when the Bible says, howbeit when the Spirit has come, he will lead you into all truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like his main role is to make you aware of what's true. Because part of him working in your life is once you're aware of what's true and you start choosing to act on it, he's going to empower you to act on it, and that's how transformation comes.
Absolutely.
So the very step is being made aware, and that's what this whole forum is about for me. It's making you aware of things, giving you new lenses, new perspectives on things. You can then act in accordance with it.
Name drop.
Name drop.
It's a great book.
Right?
Yeah.
I was looking at that book this week. I put it in the girls' room. I was like, y'all read this.
Please.
Do you retract chapter 8?
What was 8? What was 8?
You saved me. The Robert.
No, absolutely not. we're that family. So we won't get it. We won't get in that. Get the book. You'll find out what he's talking.
All right, Courtney, you on what's that? Yeah, what's that? 3?
Oh man, 3 years.
This shit.
Has it been 3 years? 2 years? What's it been for you?
I think it's been 2, if that.
Okay.
If that, I'm the rookie still. I still feel that way.
What's the impact to you as we go into year 9? How's it?
It's gonna be year 3 and a rookie.
Yeah.
Year 3, don't you get a new contract?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
You better perform, dog.
Oh, I didn't know if it was like NFL. You know, more like yeah, optional.
Yeah, you want that.
Man, I honestly I just feel like this has been a great opportunity for me, just to be involved with a group of people that are I kind of like approach this the same way. Just have a passion for it. That's rare to me to be able to find people that want to actually read together. So I'm just humbled by it, man. I'm grateful. It was like something I prayed for, you know, and I feel like I've had opportunity to grow, learn a lot more about the word, which is what I wanted. You know, like I said, we're looking at the Bible now, like in phases. For me, you know, there's prophetic, there's like the historic, there's that like the messianic, and I just find that I'm just finding out more things that I didn't really notice before. So it's just like I just enjoy everybody's perspective. You know, I always walk away with that. You know, like I come with what I've read and what I thought about, and then you know everybody comes in here and just blows my mind. I'm like, oh man, like I didn't even think about that. So,
Bishop,
What up?
when you came in, you were like, "Prove yourself to me, God." Now you're officially a bishop, right? And I would share this little tidbit with the fellas, right? I was having a conversation with Sharika today, and she said she was in a conversation with someone who was upset, and they started pulling Jesus in. And Sharika was like, "No, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that because my guns are fully loaded, and right now you're talking mess. And I can show you we're talking mess." And when he made that assertion in her bishopness,
But they could pull the father in, right?
Listen, that person had no ammo, no mag, no nothing. There wasn't.
They didn't know what they were dealing with, right? They didn't know what they were walking into. Huh?
The joint was jammed?
Huh?
So the joint was jammed?
They ain't had no joint.
And then it was empty. It was front.
Nothing in the chamber. It was empty.
It was a water gun. It was a toy. They didn't have nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
But when I saw her so confidently, just rock back and say, "All right, let's do this." You don't want none of this. It made me think about when we started and reflect a little bit on how that feels or what that is like or what that experience has been for you, Sharika. Going from where you are to guns fully loaded and comfortable and confident in guns fully loaded.
It's funny because the other day my mom surprised and came to visit me, and we were in the car and we were singing R&B, right? She's like, "Oh, you know them tune, yeah. Oh, you know all these songs." She's like, "You should know these songs like you know your Bible." And she stops. She goes, "Well, they really know your Bible, so I can't even bother." It's like, I've arrived. So, I mean, it's been a journey. I think I spent the last 8 years, not only just decomposing the Bible, but decomposing religion. You love it, you hate it, then you despise it, then you're okay with it. And then it's like, all right. Like, I feel like I went through that whole transition. And I'm not, I've always been someone who can just kind of be okay with everyone's opinions and how they want to live their life. That's between you and whoever you serve. But I think I'm now becoming more comfortable with how I want to live my life. Right. And I think that's something that I'd struggled with before, like, what's this God thing? I don't really know what it is. I don't really know who this person is. I get it. There's a respect level. But now I can say, yeah. The one, I don't know about your God. We might have the same one. But as for me and in my house, this is how we roll it. I think this past year has probably been the least I've read, but the most I've seen the personalities of God.
That's what's up.
So I think the test came in today. It was like the New York State Regents exams all hit in this last year. It was like I couldn't check the book. Not even I couldn't. even if I check the book, you know, the open book test that you're like, yo, it don't matter if the book is open, I'm still failing. It felt like one of those. I was like,
Oh,
all right, well, I guess
What is the answer in here?
I'm gonna have to rely on experience at this point because these pages ain't moving the way I expect them to. So, you know, it is what it is.
I got you. Kenrick, what's the word for today?
Hold on. Are you? Is that a sling?
Yeah, long story.
If it's a long story, don't worry about it. I don't want to lose my time.
You're right.
I haven't yielded my time to the
I wasn't
lady.
gonna start. Notice I drank my water because I wasn't gonna start.
No, you good? What's up?
I don't know what's wrong with my hand. You know, I don't feel pain like everybody else. I heard it maybe about a week ago, and it just got worse. Now they think I may have.
Is it your elbow? What is it?
It's my shoulder. They think it's something with my rotator cuff or my labrum.
I was I had a bursa sac inflamed one time, and because I was a black man, they said I had gonorrhea. So, and I had to go through like a whole gonorrhea treatment until they realized that it was just simply bursitis. I was like, there's a lot of racism
clearly
in this diagnosis right here. So I just wanted to make sure you're
It's not gonorrhea. It's not chlamydia. It's not herpes.
wow.
It's not trick.
anyway.
HPV, none of those. You know,
I was like,
if,
guys,
if
like...
it was though, it'd be in the after show.
My bad. I didn't plan to go there. But what was your question, Jared?
What's the word for today?
Oh, I'm good, man. I feel relaxed. I feel a little bit rejuvenated. I enjoyed the read. I didn't read Psalms. I was planning to though. I was actually planning to read Psalms.
Maybe in year 9 we'll read Psalms together.
No. I did it earlier this year, like one day, and I plan to do it. I plan to do it over this 30 days, but it never happened. As far as like where we are in year 8, finishing year 8, going into 9.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at some point I kind of waffled a little bit. I felt some growth this year. It was really cool because I got to experience a little bit of growth when I'm, as I'm talking to the girls and Jewel and whatnot. And I see their growth. What Courtney, piggyback a little bit on what Courtney was saying. As I'm, when I get off of here, like either I'm talking to Jewel about what we talked about, or, the next morning, me and the girls and Jewel are sitting down and we're going over and, I'm sharing, this is what I thought, this is what we, where we landed. This is where I wasn't too sure about. This is where, what do you think about this? We'll go back over readings and, all that kind of stuff. And, so it's really been cool seeing them grow and mature a little bit in that. So, and, hopefully instilling in them that, you got to get this thing for yourself. Like, you can hear 1,000,001 sermons or 1,000,001 of, someone else's experience, which is, not bad, but it is, you actually have to drink. You have to take in that water. And so it's been good, man. It's been a strong year.
Right. What's the word for today?
So the word for today. So let me ask. So check this out. So, I got caught up in, is it chapter 18 of Matthew? Where it talks about forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, it was funny. I was having a conversation with the guy I know who recently broke up with his girlfriend. And we were chit-chatting. And I was like, they broke up because they argued a lot. Right. And he was just like, it was a toxic relationship. And toxicity, I get. Like I'm not saying go back to the well on toxicity, but I was asking, I was like, do you believe in second chances? And he was like, absolutely not. And so I started thinking about like going back and thinking about the reading from 18. And I guess my question is, does forgiveness mean a second chance? Because when I read through what God or what Jesus is saying about forgiveness, for me, it feels like a second chance and multiple third, fourth, fifth, 10, 20, like multiple do-overs. However, I've always heard us people talk about, forgive and forget, or, I'll forgive, but I don't forget, like all this kind of stuff. And so, I was curious as to, my thoughts of it was, it was like a slate wipe clean, and it's a clean second chance, third chance, fifth chance, 20 chance, 100 chance. It wasn't just 7, by the way. But or 490 for the record. So the question is it a clean second, like, is that a second chance? Is that a clean slate? And there are opportunities where you don't give a clean slate? Like, can you forgive and not give a second chance? Like all of these different things. So I was curious about kind of where Jesus kind of landed, and then where do we land as humans in our individual lives?
No.
Should we go, Bishop?
Oh my gosh.
You have
can we go clockwise? Start from the top.
All right, I will start with Courtney then.
What's the verse? What's the verse?
I think it. So
We're gonna start with
18:21 to 35.
21. Okay.
Matthew 21.
Matthew 18.
18:21 to 35.
All right, so you still want me to go, or should we go?
Well, I think Courtney probably should read it.
Yes, I think Courtney should read it. However, I will say, I'm not sure. You can read 21 to 35 and probably get some answers to your question, but there's a whole lot that Jesus says in the verses before that does tie into the question. So if you want, we can read the entire chapter, or we can just go with that section. Because
I won't ask you to read the whole thing. I'll split it with you, Courtney. So you pick what you want to read, and I'll read the rest.
All right. Cool.
Do you want to do the entire chapter, Jared?
Yeah, and I say that because when we start at 21, my verse says, "Then Peter." So you kind of have to know what happened before.
What happened before? Yeah. I got
before you. For Peter coming with this question, right? And then what Jesus' response is in light of what went before. So,
all right. I'll start from 1 then. All right. About that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Jesus called a little child to him and put the child among them. Then he said, "I tell you the truth, unless you turn from your sins and become like little children, you will never get into the kingdom of heaven. So anyone who becomes as humble as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf is welcoming me. But if you cause one of these little ones who trust in me to fail or fall into sin, it would be better for you to have a large millstone tied around your neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea. What sorrow awaits the world because it tempts people to sin? Temptations are inevitable, but what sorrow awaits the person who does the tempting? So if your hand or foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It's better to enter eternal life with only one hand or one foot than to be thrown into eternal fire with both of your hands and feet. If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It's better to enter eternal life with only one eye than to have 2 eyes and thrown into fires of hell. Beware that you don't look down on any of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels are always in the presence of my heavenly Father. If a man who has 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others on the hills and go out to search for the one that is lost? And if he finds it, I tell you the truth, he will rejoice over it more than over the 99 that didn't wander away. In the same way, it is not my heavenly Father's will that even one of these little ones should perish. If another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses it, you have won that person back. But if you are unsuccessful, take one or two others with you and go back again, so that everything you say may be confirmed by two or three witnesses. If the person still refuses to listen, take your case to the church. Then, if he or she won't accept the church's decision, treat that person as a pagan or a corrupt tax collector. I tell you the truth, whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven, and whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven. I also tell you this, if two of you agree here on earth concerning anything you ask, my Father in heaven will do it for you. For where two or three gather together as my followers, I am there among them. I guess you could read 21 then.
I was like, man, you're gonna roll. Then Peter came to him and asked, Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times? No, not 7 times, Jesus replied, but 70 times 7. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king who decided to bring his accounts up to date with servants who had borrowed money from him. In the process, one of his debtors was brought in who owed him millions of dollars. He couldn't pay, so his master ordered that he be sold, along with his wife, his children, and everything he owned, to pay the debt. But the man fell down before his master and begged him, please be patient with me, and I will pay it all. Then his master was filled with pity for him, and he released him and forgave his debt. But when the man left the king, he went to a fellow servant who owed him a few $1,000s. He grabbed him by the throat and demanded instant payment. His fellow servant fell down before him and begged for a little more time. Be patient with me, and I will pay it, he pleaded. But his creditor wouldn't wait. He had the man arrested and put in prison until the debt could be paid in full. When some of the other servants saw this, they were very upset. They snitched. Sorry, that wasn't what they went to the king and told him everything that had happened. Then the king called in the man he had forgiven and said, you evil servant, I forgave you that tremendous debt because you pleaded with me. Shouldn't you have mercy on your fellow servant just as I have mercy on you? Then the angry king sent the man to prison to be tortured until he had paid his entire debt. That's what my heavenly Father will do to you if you refuse to forgive your brothers and sisters from your heart.
All right, so is this question still, does forgiveness mean a second chance, or do you want to refine your question a little bit?
Do you want to refine my question?
It's your question.
No, it doesn't mean a second chance.
Man,
and when I say second chance, like a clean chance, like nothing happened all over again.
I think from reading it, and I guess, I'm not saying that I'm applying that to my own life right away either, but the standard seems to be the mercy that God is offering to us. We should extend that offer to your brothers and sisters. So it's like clean slate is what we're being offered. We should be willing to offer that to whoever offends us. Easier said than done, I think, but I think that I also submit to the thought that it's something that you might have to do daily. That's just how I look at it. It's as as though, you know what, I might. It's like when I remember about it again, I should forgive them again. Like that's how I approach it.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I'm
Let me
not
ask
saying
this
this all the time. You know what I mean? Like just some
Mhm.
days you're like, hey, I'm dwelling on it. You know what I mean? But I think that's what we're being asked to do. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. When Moses struck the rock, right? Did God forgive him?
Yep.
Did he get a clean slate?
Nope.
I think you got a clean slate.
Depends on your
I
definition
like
of clean slate.
Jerry said no. Sharika said finger, and Kenrick
No,
said.
it's.
So
I
let's
think it's
start
all
with.
contextual.
So I
What's
think
that?
Jerry's right. It's an interpretation of what clean slate. Like, what are we saying is a clean slate?
Okay. Well, let's do it this way. Jerry, why do you think it wasn't a clean slate?
All right. So generally, when we say clean slate, we assume that means reconnection or reinstatement. You can be forgiven without
Mhm.
reconnection and reinstatement. So, for example, if I decide to go shoot somebody, the people who, the family of the person I shot could forgive me. The state could say, okay, we see you're apologetic and whatnot, and we forgive you. But the penalty of it is still you're going to go to jail. You're not going to be, reconnected with your family, and you're not going to be reinstated to your current portfolio and status in life. That's just natural penalty for it. So I feel like if you're using that definition, Moses was forgiven, yeah, but he didn't get to reconnect or be reinstated the way he had in mind or he had envisioned on Earth anyway.
So,
Well, he came back.
Yeah, I
let's
know.
do this, because let's do this. Second reinstatement is reinstated the same as second chance, and I think the question was second chance, right?
Second
Was
chance
he
is the question.
forgiven? Did he get a second
Reinstatement
chance?
is not the same as second chance. It can be second chance, but not necessarily.
It's not
All
the
right, so
same, yeah.
good. Let's do that then. Was Moses forgiven? Did he get a
Yes.
second chance?
He did not get a second chance. Well, the second chance was a little different.
Tell me more.
So I like to use the examples of, even in a relationship. You could, let's say you're in an abusive relationship, you can forgive the person. That doesn't mean you just stay around them and get punched in the face all day and be like, I'm praying for you, brother. No. Be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove, right? I think some of us are as wise as doves, and that's the problem. We get ourselves in situations where we get punched in the face all the time under the guise. And I'm saying punch in the face proverbially, right? We're in situations where we know our accountant is stealing money from us repeatedly, or this person is taking advantage of us, or this person is being deceptive, whatever it is. And we're forgiving them, but the fact that you forgive them doesn't mean you give them back access to everything they had access to before, just so that they make the same decision. Bishop, that's good. Come on, let's hear you. Come on.
I've always been intrigued by the word forgive, which
Speak the word.
definition of forgiveness is to stop feeling angry or resentment or resentful towards someone for an offense.
Okay.
Basically releasing yourself of the negative emotion that comes with it or the desire for vengeance. I think a lot of times we look at forgiveness from this should be a clean slate, but that's not the definition of the word. It just means that I have no interest in retaliation of any kind anymore. So can people get second chances? Sure, if I don't want to empty my clip, sure, why not?
Gangster.
But I think to Jerome's point, you also have to. When I forgive, doesn't mean that I put myself back in a position to unforgive. To Courtney's point again, it's like, all right, well, I gotta have to move differently in so many ways. I didn't forget, I don't want to harm you anymore, but I also understand what you can do to me. And so therefore, it'd be silly of me to continue to put myself in this situation because then it's a problem. So did Moses get a second chance? Yeah. Yeah, probably. I mean, he didn't go to hell. So yeah, I think he did. Did he necessarily get one down here? I mean, he died. Depends on how you define that.
He didn't get to enter the promised land, right?
Right. I mean, he kind of had to take his hit.
But then he got to enter the
That's what I'm saying. So he got a second chance in that, okay, I have no resent against the offense. I don't want to necessarily kill you, but that also doesn't mean that I put you back in a position to do this offense again. I'll take it from here.
So as you brought up the definition, I went to the definition of forgive in this verse 21, and it's interesting. This word has all kinds of meanings. It's not this particular word. So maybe we need to define forgiveness a little bit broader in other words. But the word there is apheemi. The Bible usage of it is cry, forgive, forsake, lay aside, leave, let alone, omit, put, send away, remit, suffer, yield up. It's a whole lot of things, a whole lot of ideas. The first definition is to send away, to bid going away or depart, of a husband divorcing his wife, to send forth, to yield up, to expire, to let alone, to be disregard, to leave, to not discuss. Of teachers, writers, or speakers, to omit, to neglect, to let go, to give up a debt, to forgive.
So to forgive is to let go?
Yes, to let go, to give up a debt, to forgive, to remit, to give up, to keep no longer. And I think that's the usage that's being
keep no longer whatever the offense, like whatever the emotion tied to the offense. Like what is to keep no longer what?
It just says to keep no longer because it's of teachers, writers, and speakers.
Yeah, I'll lean on the side of what Sharika is saying, where it's that of the resentment, the feeling towards the offense, the whatnot. You're not harboring a grudge. You're not holding something against them.
I would say it's the right to and I like the illustration. The when the master canceled his debt, he gave up the right to demand payment. He forgave the debt. When the servant didn't forgive, he held on to his right to react, to respond.
But not only did he hold on to his right, he actually acted upon that.
Right.
So is it the act or is it the holding on of or holding on to? Or is it both?
I would say, given this definition, it's to let go, to give up, to keep no longer.
So even the right too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, are you really forgiving if every time something happens, I remind you, I could do that to you, son? I could. Like, nobody, like, go ahead, do it. Like, at that point, it's just like, go ahead. Like, it's worse to do that than to just do it.
Sure.
And I also think you're not even allowing the person to move past it. Like, I think a couple months ago, it's on my desk still. We said this. It says forgiveness is a choice, not a transaction, right? Like, so you have to choose to let it go. And when you choose to let it go, you release yourself of whatever that person did to you, but you also open up yourself for it to happen again, right? And I say that to say not that you stay in the position, but there's now an empty spot, if that makes sense. Like, you could offend me again if I put myself in this position.
So I think that's where I was going, because I've always associated, and I guess it's perceived risk right? But there's always a risk of, right? When you truly, and I guess, and that goes for, we can get to a bunch of different conversations, but when you truly let go of something, or you truly, in this case, forgive, like and I think that's the risk that Jesus and God, they take on. It's like, yeah, I will forgive you, understanding that there's a chance you're going to do the same thing to me again, right? But I'm willing to take that risk because not only did I create you, but I love you, right? And I understand this is a process. And then you do the same thing again, and they go through the
So
whole process.
But
that sounds nice and makes sense, Kenrick. But what do we do with Moses? I think whatever definition we land on has, in terms of God's forgiveness, has to account for how he dealt with Moses.
It
Because
doesn't.
not everybody God forgave. So
So
let's do it with that. Let's use that as our case
I guess,
study.
to Sharika's point, though, how did Moses not get a second chance? He got the ultimate second chance. He got wiped clean and was like, you know what? You made it. Go ahead.
I also think
you may enter.
We combine forgiveness with no consequence.
Correct.
And so we look at Moses, it's like, oh, well, he had consequence. That ain't got nothing to do with the other.
Yeah.
And I guess that's my thing. Like, second chance doesn't necessarily mean immediate. Doesn't necessarily mean like it happens and then, like, second chance could mean consequence, and then you get an opportunity to prove yourself, right?
Yeah.
Can I throw a spoke in the wheel as well?
So I'm not sure about that next part about proving yourself, because I don't know that in Moses.
Not proving. Yeah, proving yourself's a little different. Yes, I agree. But it may look like you get a second chance after you serve whatever the punishment was, the consequence of it was.
The risk of you doing it again returns after the consequence, if there is a consequence.
If there is. What were you gonna say? What was your spoke, Jerry?
I don't. Oh boy. Some people are troubled by this. I don't think we can ever disappoint God.
Fact.
You can disappoint a fellow human being, but you can't disappoint God, because disappointment implies that you expected something, and expectation is based on some degree of knowledge. God already knows what you're going to do. So if you mess up, you're not actually disappointing him, because he knew what you were going to do.
But he's been disappointed.
He's been disappointed, yes, but it's not like he knew exactly what was going to happen. So his level of forgiveness and whatnot is.
So wait, Jerry.
Pause. Genesis chapter 6. Genesis chapter 6 and 7. Can you read that for me? Can you read that for me and help me with that?
Genesis what for?
Genesis 6.
Genesis what, sorry?
6. 5 through 7.
Genesis 6. Okay. There, what is this? I don't even know if this is King James. Anyway, then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great upon the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was altogether evil all the time. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out man, whom I have created, from the face of the earth, every man and beast, crawling creature, bird of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them.
That grief is not a measure of disappointment.
And that's why.
Well, I don't know if grieve is the same as disappointment.
Because again, and I'm just using a very narrow definition of disappointment, which implies if I knew you were going to do something and you do exactly what I knew you were going to do.
What about the regret part? What about the regret part?
I can, and that's what I'm saying. I can be upset, I can regret, I can grieve, but it's like I knew you were gonna do what you were gonna do. So
Here's the thing,
So
Jerry.
that so in that word, so in one version it says and God repented.
Mm.
And it means to be sorry, to console oneself, to repent, regret, to be moved to pity, to have compassion, to be sorry, to rue, to suffer grief.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't think we can disappoint God in perpetuity.
Yeah.
I think that's where Jerry. It's like it's not. At this point, he's aware of all of our foolishness. There are multiple ways this person can go. I had some heavy faith in them in the beginning, but these little Bamas is worse off than I thought they were.
Oh, you're
All right.
officially you've been here a while.
Oh,
You just use Bama?
I've been saying Bama since I lived in the Bronx. So
Really?
yeah.
What?
Look at you.
But
Maybe so disappointed in you.
Yes.
I think to regret and to be disappointed may not be the same thing.
Now here's, I wasn't just saying it for the sake of saying it, right? Here's where I was going with it. Because God knows what you're going to do.
And the options that you have on the table that you might choose from.
Here we go. I was waiting for it.
I'll pause on that one, right? But it's like he knows exactly what you're going to do. And so the way he might apply that second chance is going to be different, I think, than the way we'll apply it. Because I might give the second chance fully expecting that, okay, they paid the penalty, they suffered the consequence, they're not going to do this nonsense again. And then 6 weeks down, and I'm treating them a particular way because I fully expect that they won't do it again. And then they do. So now I'm in a position where, okay, I can forgive, yes, but I can't keep exposing myself to this. Whereas the difference with God is God knows what we're going to do, and he keeps exposing himself, until he just...
So
we just read that God said, I had enough of this mess, and he drowned everybody, right? So I'm not sure that is completely consistent with what we see with God. We also see that with
I think it just takes way longer with God than it does us.
No, because Achan was taken out in one shot. So was the guy who touched the ark. He get licked up faster than fast. So there is some
he's a righteous judge, man.
So you're saying circumstances, maybe, i.e., audience, all of that comes into play. So, for instance, if something happens in front of my kids, right, as opposed to something happening in front of Jewel, something happening in front of Jewel, I may, she's old enough to figure it out. She knows where things lie. She can process it a little bit easier. Something happened in front of the girls, you may have to take, quicker action because you don't want them to think that this is okay because they're so young, and to deter them from accepting this type of action in the future.
Yep. And part of that is why I say, the being wise as a serpent comes in, right? Knowing context, knowing audience, what consequence should be.
Let's go to Exodus chapter 30, all right?
30?
Sorry, 32. And we can read from verse 7. Courtney, go from verse 7 to 14.
We gotta get Courtney a reading deal.
Every time I listen to the Bible, I'm waiting for Courtney's voice to come on.
I mean, if y'all know the connect, hook me up. What's up? All right. The Lord told Moses, "Quick, go down the mountain. Your people whom you brought from the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. How quickly they have turned away from the way I commanded them to live. They have melted down gold and made a calf, and they have bowed down and sacrificed to it. They are saying, these are our gods, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Then
First
the Lord,
of all, I mean, I understand that this was a really bad thing to do, but the fact that these Bamas melted down gold and made a calf like that quick,
Right.
like these Bamas are nice.
right,
They're nice. Jacob the jeweler had nothing on.
Correct. Correct.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's crazy. For real. Then the Lord said, I have seen how stubborn and rebellious these people are. Now leave me alone so my fierce anger can blaze against them, and I will destroy them. Then I will make you, Moses, into a great nation. But Moses tried to pacify the Lord his God. O Lord, he said, why are you so angry with your own people, whom you brought from the land of Egypt with such great power and such a strong hand? Why let the Egyptians say their God rescued them with evil intention of slaughtering them in the mountains and wiping them from the face of the earth? Turn away from your fierce anger. Change your mind about this terrible disaster you have threatened against your people. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You bound yourself with an oath to them, saying, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars of heaven, and I will give them all of this land I have promised to your descendants, and they will possess it forever. So the Lord changed his mind about the terrible disaster he had threatened to bring upon his people.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to read all the way to 35. You're going to have to read 35. Sorry.
35? All right.
Yeah,
all
you
right.
have to read all the way to 35.
All right.
Because we're asking a question about what does forgiveness look like based on what God is establishing. And we have various stories of various things. And the flushing out all the stories helps to answer some of the questions that we're asking. That's why I'm doing that.
Then Moses turned and went down the mountain. He held in his hands the 2 stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant. They were inscribed on both sides, front and back. These tablets were God's work. The words on them were written by God himself. When Joshua heard the boisterous noise of the people shouting below them, he exclaimed to Moses, it sounds like war in the camp. But Moses replied, no, it's not a shout of victory, nor the wailing of defeat. I hear the sound of celebration. When they came near the camp, Moses saw the calf and the dancing, and he burned with anger. He threw the stone tablets to the ground, smashing them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf they had made and burned it. Then he ground it into powder, threw it into the water, and forced the people to drink it. Finally, he turned to Aaron and demanded, what did these people do to you to make you bring such terrible sin upon them? Don't get so upset, my lord, Aaron replied. You yourself know how evil these people are. They said to me, make us gods who will lead us. We don't know what happened to this fellow Moses who brought us here from the land of Egypt. So I told them, whoever has gold jewelry, take it off. When they brought it to me, I simply threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Moses saw that Aaron had let the people get completely out of control, much of their enemies. So he stood at the entrance to the camp and shouted, all of you who are on the Lord's side, come here and join me. And all the Levites gathered around him. Moses told them, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel says. Each of you take your swords and go back and forth from one end of the camp to the other. Kill everyone, even your brothers, friends, and neighbors. The Levites obeyed Moses' command, and about 3,000 people died that day. Then Moses told the Levites, today you have ordained yourselves for the service of the Lord, for you obeyed him even though it meant killing your own sons and brothers. Today you have earned a blessing. The next day Moses said to the people, you have committed a terrible sin, but I will go back up to the Lord on the mountain. Perhaps I will be able to obtain forgiveness for your sin. So Moses returned to the Lord and said, oh, what a terrible sin these people have committed. They have made gods of gold for themselves. But now, if you will only forgive their sin, but if not, erase my name from the record you have written. But the Lord replied to Moses, "No, I will erase the name of everyone who has sinned against me. Now go, lead the people to the place I told you about. Look, my angel will lead the way before you, and when I come to call the people to account, I will certainly hold them responsible for their sins." Then the Lord sent a great plague upon the people because they had worshipped the calf Aaron had made.
I just want to shout out Aaron for pixie dust, right? Just poof, out comes a calf. Really?
Dude.
Yeah.
What Lorraine said to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jokes. Cool.
And
Oh,
what up,
man.
Abby?
Yo, Abby.
So yeah,
Here.
so now we have this story that has elements of forgiveness, elements of responsibility, elements of accountability, and elements of consequence. And what is the interplay and the relationship between all of that? And then we have God, who is the one we're not just talking about forgiveness between man and man, we're talking about how God is demonstrating all of this and the standard that he seems to be establishing. That also has, in other places, a lot more mercy and compassion and in other places. So what do we learn about forgiveness from God's perspective from this story, from the story of the one we read in Genesis, and then any other story that we could put together with it to kind of create this mosaic of forgiveness as it relates to God?
I'm not sure they got the seven. I'm not sure they got the 7 times.
Sorry?
Hmm?
I'm not sure they got the 7 times.
No, forgiveness doesn't mean that you're freed of the consequences, right? Or the penalties. So,
but I don't even think some of these mamas got a chance to ask for forgiveness.
but again, we don't know, because it's like, we've talked about where it seemed like God was really swift to act, but we don't know how many of those 7 chances they got before on any number of things. We just know what's recorded, right?
All right, let's add the
And
story.
then Jared, wasn't there a place too where I can't, there was something else they sinned against God. He opened the ground and swallowed up a bunch of them. And then there was some others who didn't take part in what they were doing, but they thought God was being harsh and unfair. And he opened the ground and swallowed them too, just for put some respect on my name. So, which is a whole other level, right? Because technically they didn't take part in the act, but I guess they were questioning God's judgment. And he was like, "Nah, I'm not taking that. So you get swallowed too."
But this is a little different time. Like, there's a lot going on that God's trying to do with these guys, right? And so even when you kind of look back on it, and we've talked about it a few times on the show, like there were certain things that God just wasn't going to tolerate and allow, because he wasn't going to allow it to seep in, like, and to even begin to fester. Whereas I think today, there's a little bit more leeway, and you kind of get that as you listen to him, and he's talking about, when Jesus talk about the wheat and the tares. Like, there's just some things that he's just not gonna. He's going to allow to happen. He's going to allow to grow. Everybody's going to grow together, and then he'll determine it later. Here, there were no wheat and tares. Like, I mean, he wasn't going to let these Bama's grow together. He was like, I'm going to pluck everything I can out because it's too new. I'm just beginning this thing. I'm reestablishing who I am with my people, and so I can't allow certain things to fester. So, I mean, I don't know if there's rhyme or reason.
Let's add another story, because it's a little bit different. Let's add the story of David when he had the affair with Bathsheba, and Nathan came to him, and the son died.
What about it?
Prayed.
Did the son have a name yet, or no?
Let's add that story to see how, in God's dealing there, do we learn anything about what forgiveness, consequence, second chances.
Yeah, we learn a lot.
But question, Jared. Wasn't so that first son died, but wasn't Solomon the second son? Or did I get that wrong?
Yes,
Yeah, so is that a second chance?
he was the second son. You did not get that wrong.
Because then Jesus was the descendant of Solomon, right? Didn't he come from that lineage?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yes.
So what do we learn? What picture starts to form about because it's the same God dealing with people, and he is consistent, not necessarily in the how he deals, but what and who he is, right?
I think
And what and who he is may look different for person X than it does for person Y, but what and who he is consistent, or at least we can make that assumption.
Well,
make that.
I like the way you actually said that, because you get his character coming out where he is merciful. He won't always keep you from the consequences, and he is a God who, how does he say, he forgives until the whatever generations and all that good stuff. But it does seem to me like there's a role we have to play in it, where if we adopt a posture like David, where we're contrite and whatnot, it tends to lean one way, as opposed to if his biggest problem with Israel seemed to be they were just stubborn, hard-headed, how did he call it, stiff-necked. It's like they just wouldn't get it.
I don't know. It seems like there's always a particular audience he's playing to, and whoever the lesson is intended for, if you might get the shaft if it's meant for someone else, right? So the baby got the shaft because it was meant for David, right? Moses got the shaft
Because it was meant for Israel.
because it was meant for Joshua.
Okay.
And the people.
And the people. Like, I think it really depends on who he's trying to shine the spotlight on. And whoever he's trying to spotlight on to get that message, if you happen to be the person
so.
that messed up at that particular time, like, you're done.
Here's to add to that. We also have to remove the attachment of earthly death being bad, because Moses proves that. No, okay. It's not.
I guess
you're
right. People cry a lot.
It has no connection to whether and how you stand with God. None. Because, for instance, the baby dying, we don't know what happened to that little baby. Unfortunately, my man, you got the hit. You died. We don't know what happens in the afterlife. We know what happens to Moses. He took the hit. We didn't really. It wasn't a forever suffering. It was all right. You took the hit. I think we put a heavy value on your ability to tell your story on earth, and equate that to say, because God took you out, that means that he hates you, or you did something bad, or he did whatever. I took you out to prove a point. What I do with you after that is my business, right? And I think that's hard for us to understand, because we value the life here, and this is the one that we can make the assumptions against.
Mm-hmm. I do like, Henrik, your submission about the audience that God is playing to. I would go a step further and say, we see individuals, God sees humanity or the people as a collective. And so if you go back through the stories, if we start with the one that I first read, when mankind became, thoughts evil all the time and he got regretted, while he did put consequence and dealt with some of the people, he maintained his relationship with humanity and gave humanity a second chance and forgave humanity for that offense. Right? When the people had the calf, you see something similar. He dealt with the errant individuals, but his forgiveness extended to all the people. And if you look at the history of Israel, he stays in this covenant relationship with them, forgiving them as a community over and over and over and giving them chance after chance after chance, filled with consequence after consequence after consequence, which the consequences are prone to, are intended to help shape the relationship and move or nudge the relation back into a healthy manner. I mean, all of
until
what?
Until
what?
like he did it over and over and over again until
He never stopped.
He hasn't stopped.
No, he still hasn't stopped. He just reconstituted Israel. That's all that he did. And still includes all of those people in the same thing. So, and one of the things that is why I said we couldn't just start Matthew 18 from the forgiveness thing is that all the texts that come before was talking about the dynamics of the relationships between people and preserving the nature of those relationships and the things you have to do to preserve the relationship. So if you study like what happened just before in that chapter, he talks about being accountable, trying not to cause people to fall, and what if you cause them to fall, what you do about preserving, your own righteousness and not making yourself out of order with him. He then talks about the wandering of the sheep. If the sheep wanders, he goes and finds them. It's that preservation in that regard. I like Lauren's word there. I'm gonna use her words there. There's always a bigger picture, and you have to almost process God's interactions out of the bigger picture, and not in the micro, but in the macro. You would see the forgiveness in the macro and the micro, but it usually sits in the macro. He then goes on to ask, if your brother sins against you, point out that fault between them. And then he goes on to articulate this strategy for preserving the relationship and staying in relationship. Go talk to them. If they don't talk to you, talk to these other people. And if they don't talk to these other people and don't hear a reason for you all to resolve your issue, right? Talk to a bigger group. And if after that they still want to be at odds because they don't want to operate in the group, put them out of the group. But there's room for them to come back if they're willing to abide in this rule, in this circumstance. And so it would appear, based on the stories and the conversations that we're having, and that's when Peter, comes in and asks, well, then, Lord, how much time I have to do that, right? An exact number. He says, I want you to stay in that posture. I want you to value the relationship like that you will just keep doing it. Right? Now, that is not saying, notice he says, go have the conversation. That is not saying take what is being done. That's not what I'm saying, and allow what is being done to persist because we want to stop it. But I have to continue to be in a posture where I'm not going to hold it against them and cause it to impact the way I deal in the relationship. Notice all the times, even the moments where God got completely mad and said, I don't want nothing to do with these people again, he didn't cut them off altogether. He's never cut them off altogether. He's always, said, I'm letting you know that I don't tolerate this foolishness. This is against your cross. How you say, sure, you're crossing my boundary here. And I need you to know that this is a firm boundary that I won't move on. You need to come out of relationship with. He might have said these individuals don't deserve to be in a relationship, but I'm still committed to the plan of being in a relationship with you all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think those are things that help us extract what does forgiveness actually include, and what is the relationship between forgiveness and consequence and second chances. I don't think that everyone who's forgiven gets a second chance to do the same thing again, but the second chance that you do see from God is the relationship with the people that he's in relationship with. He gives the relationship a second chance. He may not, and you see that with Moses. Moses' relationship with God, he got a second chance. David's relationship with God got a second chance. But Moses' responsibility as leader of the people did not get a second. Well, he didn't really take it away, but his promise to go into he didn't get a second chance to get to go into the promised land. Let's say that. I don't want to, mess up the idea there, but he didn't get a second chance there. David didn't get a second chance from the standpoint of that child didn't get a second chance. But his relationship
Right.
with God definitely did. And the relationship continued to get chance after chance after chance.
Yeah.
Even
David's family, then his rest of his kids, there was like turmoil in that with among his kids for a while too. As a also consequence of that move. But in the same sense, like Jerome said, the Messiah still came through his mind. David's reign was still extended. His son was able to still reign after him. And you read through the Old Testament, you see that, at least from my perspective, you can see that all the kings that came after, the rulers after in Israel, they're always being compared to David. Like David's always referred to as like in favor with God. And so, like you said, that relationship still mattered like years after. Like, I'm doing this for my servant David.
So
Right.
so based on that, Courtney, are we saying that it's the relationship that gets the second chance, not necessarily that specific interaction? So for instance, okay, that made sense. So I don't need the example.
No, run the example.
Yeah.
Give us a
run the example. But we agree, but we'd like to hear the example anyway. I agree.
So,
I don't know, Jerry didn't say anything.
So for instance,
Go ahead.
in the situation of David, baby dies, but he still gets the relationship. God still gets to show his power through David. So the how is slightly adjusted because this is not what I planned for, but I adjusted. Now we have a second chance to do what we wanted or what we needed to do. To Courtney's point, everybody still be like, yo, David was King of Kings. That was God's dude. The relationship got the second chance. The offense, it's done. It is what it is.
Humanity got a second chance to Noah. All them people drowned, but humanity got a second chance to Noah. And humanity got a second chance through Jesus. That's what the author of Hebrews says. Adam destined humanity to hell, and Jesus came and gave humanity a chance. And we all get forgiveness through Jesus.
And we're still subjected to the consequences that could come in the future.
Correct. Correct.
I guess even that is then the lesson for us in terms of forgiving people. We can maintain the relationship, give the relationship a second chance, but that doesn't mean that we absolve them from all consequence. And we might have to,
Right.
to Sharika's point, we might have to adjust some things so that in this particular, scenario, you can't mess up again. But that doesn't mean I ain't speaking to you and
But it seems that, so based upon this conversation, we've had this conversation before about how Western civilization views, we're very individualistic here, and so it seems that. So let me ask. So God, there were situations where God forgave, and we just talked about when it comes to humanity and gives humanity a second chance as opposed to the individual itself or themselves.
Yes, they
Well,
are.
so you're saying like a second chance on Earth-ish. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, I would say this, Kenrick.
Yes.
For many of the stories that we have referenced, by the time God had pulled the trigger, he had already talked for a long time. Like those people who got wiped out had 120 years plus before God, chopped down on them. For the people that we talked to with the calf, God had talked to them and done some things before, So
yeah, but Moses got one time, and it was like, I bet, cool, we good.
Right. The thing is this. the thing is this: so practically, when someone offends me, right, and asks for forgiveness, or doesn't, or whatever it is, whatever, and I forgive, right? Am I forgiving them, or am I forgiving them on behalf of all humanity
What?
to make sure that,
Well,
what
first
am
of all, we
what am I
talking about
doing?
God to extract principles of forgiveness, and see where this thing goes. I think one of the things that we learn from God is, as you pointed out, there are factors that go into play to how God acts that are relative to the context and the situation, right? What God does or doesn't do depends on who and what are involved and what are the dynamics at play. I think that may be the lesson for us. How we enact consequence, how we progress forward, and what impact it has to the relationship with the individual is determined by, is influenced by the circumstance. Influenced by the circumstance. So I wouldn't put a whole blanket on it, because what you see is, as you pointed out, depending on the audience God is talking to and who he's in relationship with, he has to give some people the L for the sake of that. And so there are multiple layers there, right? When David does his thing, it's not just David, it's David and the people. But when Moses does his thing, it's also Moses and the people. When Manasseh says, God, I'm sorry, God deals with Manasseh a certain way and then restores him, right? So there's the dynamic of the individual and the collective that's in play with God. And I would then say the equivalence for us is there are dynamics in each of our circumstances that are also in play, and we would have to then navigate those with the idea of attempting to preserve the relationship.
Kendrick, I think that to answer your question, is it one or all? I think God is in a relationship with all, so it's in so many ways it's with the group that he's dealing with. But for us, it can only be on an individual level.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I got
Lauren says,
a question about. Oh, go ahead.
Though relationship is maintained, it may look different or take on a different form. Absolutely. And you know who's a good example of that? David, when his relationship with Saul, he couldn't stay in the house, he couldn't stay at the job. I mean, he had to leave his wife because Saul was trying to kill him. But at no time did he take on a posture where he had animosity or animus towards Saul, and was still open to be in relationship with Saul if Saul would change his ways. And I think that's the same thing with God. God is open to be in relationship, but he has these boundaries, and you have to be in relationship on his terms, because I'm not saying we all have to be in relationship on our terms. There's a little bit more negotiation, but when there are boundaries that are in place, if you're going to be in relationship with somebody, you have to, maintain their bound, work within those boundaries.
Yeah.
Providing.
So forgiveness is a difficult concept for me to understand, not from like a God and me, but I've never really had to forgive somebody. Like, I've never taken offense enough to where I would forgive you.
And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
have you never taken to end the relationship?
No.
Or have nothing to do with the person?
I can't think of anybody I've ended a relationship with because they did something to me. I can't think of anyone.
Okay. Bless your heart, man.
I mean,
I'm
like the older I'm getting, I'm kind of going in that route too. Like, it's not that this sounds so bad. Y'all, most people aren't that.
First of all, don't. The older I'm getting, so
the older part. Yeah. I'm gonna let you.
I'm old, and as you're approaching where that's what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. Let you have that. I feel like people don't matter that much to get under my skin anymore.
I wasn't gonna say.
I feel
that,
you on
but
that.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
What happened?
No, I said I feel you on that. Where it's just like some things just it's like water off the back of a duck, right? It's just like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Do you?
I think it was Kevin Hart that said it takes so much energy to be angry and to hold the resentment and to carry on. It's like, man, I do what you're doing, man. Keep moving. But is that a form of forgiveness in itself? Right? Like now I'm talking about it's like the fact that you be like, whatever. You don't even hold it as an offense. Like
Or
it's like
or
an open
or maybe you just have maybe I've just my values are so low that nothing can offend me. Like it's just like there's no standard. I don't know.
There is a world where I just don't care enough about you for what you do to bother me, and I don't think that is forgiveness. I don't think where it runs off my back because I don't care enough.
No, I'm not thinking about that. I don't think that's the world. I think, for instance, and maybe it's the younger generation. Like I was talking to my friend's nephew, and he wanted to hang out, not like that in any way, shape, or form, folks. But and he's like,
that'll be a question for later. That's no problem.
He's like, oh, if you knew some of the stuff I've got myself into, you wouldn't be as trusting. And I was like, bro, you're young, you're dumb. Your sins are forgiven in advance. Like, it's just like, it's like, it's not that I don't care about you. I just expect you to be dumb. You're 15, right?
Well,
like,
I guess, and I guess that's where, yes. And that's where, like, even Jewel, we get into it sometimes, and like, and I just, my thing is like, I expect you to be you. And I guess that's where I am. Like I expect you to be whoever you are. I expect people to offend me. I expect people to like not do the right thing all the time. I expect that. So because I expect that, like if it happens, it's fine. Like we'll figure it out. Like I don't expect perfection. I don't expect you to to not do the wrong or to do the wrong thing or not do the wrong. I expect you to be you, and I've always taken that perspective.
That's noble. That's good, and
I have no expectations for you.
That's noble and that's good. I don't know though that that is where God sits though, because the record suggests.
Yes, I agree.
That he has I guess not only does he have expectations, but that when his expectations are not met, it affects his feelings. Like the Bible uses feeling words, emotion words to describe his response. He is angry. He was like, I'm gonna light up all of them. I'm gonna turn on the tap and drown them.
But his expectations can't be that high.
What?
It's been thousands. It's been his expectations can't be that high.
That's why they made a covenant. Like they had to uphold this covenant. This is like the terms of the relationship. So when
someone please define expectations for me.
If he made terms for what their relationship is supposed to be, then I think those are expectations. That's how I'm thinking.
Let's go to Isaiah chapter 5.
And then he'll tell you.
All right.
I think he has goals. I think he has.
The definition of the word expectation is a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows exactly what's going to happen. So it's like, anyway.
So let's go.
Why does he have two sets of things, the cursings and blessings? Why would he outline those things for us if there's no expectation?
The same reason we put. I mean, I think that you give people goals to shoot for, you establish standards, but after thousands and thousands of years, like
let's go with Isaiah chapter 5.
He has to expect that we're who we are, and the only thing we have is to be able to I was having a conversation with, I can't remember if it was Addison this week.
Okay, go ahead. I was just going to ask, do you expect your wife to be faithful to you?
Based upon our track record, yes, 100%. But it's based upon what I've seen.
Right, but also when you got married to her, did you have that expectation? When you entered into this covenant relationship with her,
Based
you come in with that expectation.
Yeah, but it was based upon what I've seen. Like we were together for 4 years. I saw all the seasons. So, at that point, we had this conversation. I was like, I expect Jewel to be Jewel. And based upon what I had seen, I expected her to be faithful. Now, if she wasn't faithful, then that's a completely different conversation that we will have based upon you not being faithful. But I expect my expectations for her were based upon like the track record that had been.
You had a strong belief that her faithfulness would happen. That's your expectation.
Yeah, that was my
expectation. So let's do
expectation based upon her actions from the previous 4 years.
Good. As you're looking for Isaiah chapter 5, let's also recall the book of Hosea. Right? When God told Hosea to go and find the prostitute wife.
Bro, we can't do that. Flag on the play. Where the flag?
Was the expectation that
blue flag
would be faithful? Was the illustration that God used with Hosea that similar to the way Hosea's wife was out there, that the expectation was, when I marry you, you're going to become faithful to me? Was that also God's expectation? And does the book of Hosea articulate that?
God's standard
was his standard.
God's standard was faithfulness.
Standard
was that his expectation?
No, standard and expectation. No, that was not his expectation. Because then he would have been this. It's not it.
That's why he chose a hoe.
And you can't turn a hoe into a housewife.
You can.
Not easily.
But not in Hosea.
Not easily. Not easily.
No, it wasn't. I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna look up the word standard. A standard and an expectation are two different things.
Let's go to Isaiah chapter 5. and
Isaiah chapter 5.
Yeah, 1 through 7, Courtney.
Oh wait, hold on. As the definition of the word standard is a level of quality or attainment, is accepted as normal. So it is the norm. This is my standard. This is what I want.
Okay.
Which is very different than expectation.
100%.
Which is a strong belief in what I believe can happen.
I will be very, very surprised if God has an expectation that we will be faithful. An expectation.
But he has a standard.
He has a standard, but an expectation?
That's heavy.
Because he knows everything before it happens.
He knows all the possibilities of what could happen.
Let's read Isaiah chapter 5 and see if God has an expectation.
Isaiah 5.
A few hours later. All right, I got you. All right.
Wow.
Now I will sing. Now I will sing to the one I love a song about his vineyard. My beloved had a vineyard on a rich and fertile hill. He plowed the land, cleared its stones, planted it with the best vines. In the middle, he built a watchtower and carved a wine press in the nearby rocks. Then he waited for a harvest of sweet grapes, but the grapes that grew were bitter. Now you people of Jerusalem and Judah, you judge between me and my vineyard. What more could I have done for my vineyard that I have not already done? When I expected sweet grapes, why did my vineyard give me bitter grapes? Now, let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will tear down its hedges and let it be destroyed. I will break down its walls and let the animals trample it. I will make it a wild place where the vines are not pruned and the ground is not hoed, a place overgrown with briars and thorns. I will command the clouds to drop no rain on it. The nation of Israel is the vineyard of the Lord of heaven's armies. The people of Judah are his pleasant garden. He expected a crop of justice, but instead he found oppression. He expected to find righteousness, but instead he heard cries of violence.
I don't have the word expect in my Bible, so I'd like to raise an objection.
What
So you want to throw your blue flag again?
Yeah.
what verse is that? What verse is that?
The one that said expectation.
Yeah, what word is that? What verse is it?
7.
Yeah, mine is verse 7, which said and I'm reading from the New Living Translation. So what version?
The word is looked, right?
Yeah, I have looked.
Okay.
All right. So the word kava or kava says to gather, to look, to patient, to wait for, to bind together, to collect, figuratively to expect, to wait, to look for, to hope, to expect, waiting, to wait for or look for eagerly, to lie in wait for, to linger, to collect, to bind together, which is to have an expectation.
Oh, Lorraine has a definition up there too. Let's see what she's saying.
Isaiah.
Did you see that?
5.
Huh?
What's that again?
The flag.
Oh gosh.
Always handy.
Well, the other places where this word is used is Isaiah 69 verse 20. Reproach had broken my heart. I am full of heaviness, and I looked for someone to take pity, but there was none, and for comforters, but I found none. And then the other uses are in that Isaiah chapter 5, verses 2, 4, and 7. Jeremiah 8 verse 15 is the other place it is used. We looked for peace, but no good came, and for a time of health, and behold, trouble. Jeremiah 14 verse 19. Hast thou utterly rejected Judah? Hath my soul lost for Zion? Why hast thou smitten us, and there is no healing? We looked for peace, and there was no good, and for the time of healing, and behold, trouble. So
they're looking for something that should be there, right?
Yes, an expectation. Yes. He expected grapes.
Because that's what he planted, right? He's like,
great for the standard if you plant in a vineyard.
Yeah, grapes are what you would expect. You know, there's another story about Jesus seeing a tree and leaf and expecting to find fruit, only to go over and not find it. There's another story where a parable that Jesus uses about the guy who was minding a tree in the yard, a fruit tree, and the tree didn't bear for 3 years. He was looking for fruit and it didn't bear. That is also an expectation. And he used that parable about God looking for fruit for us and, taking the time to nurture us and plant us and whatever. And if we don't bear the fruit that he's expecting, he will chop down the fruit and the tree and put it in the fire. I'm going to find it. I think it's in Luke chapter 12, but it might be chapter 13. Yes, Luke chapter 13. Then he told us, I'm going to read it. Well, Courtney can read. Luke 13, 1 through 8.
Luke 13.
Oh, my Bible freeze. Come on, man. You said Luke 31?
13.
How about to be like, ain't no 31 in
Luke 1 through 8.
1 through 8?
Mm-hmm.
All right. About this time, Jesus was informed that Pilate had murdered some people from Galilee as they were offering sacrifices at the temple. Do you think those Galileans were worse sinners than all the people from Galilee? Jesus asked. Is that why they suffered? Not at all. And you will perish too unless you repent of your sins and turn to God. And what about the 18 people who died when the tower in Siloam fell on them? Were they the worst sinners in Jerusalem? No, I tell you again that unless you repent, you will perish too. Then Jesus told this story. A man planted a fig tree in his garden and came again and again to see if there was any fruit on it, but he was always disappointed. Finally, he said to his gardener, I've waited 3 years and there hasn't been a single fig. Cut it down. It's just taking up space in the garden. The gardener answered, Sir, give it one more chance. Leave it another year, and I'll give it special attention and plenty of fertilizer. If we get figs next year, fine. If not, then you can cut it down.
Mm. Let's also turn to Numbers chapter 14.
Number 14.
I read from 1 to 11, but the emphasis is on 10 and 11.
Okay. Then the whole community began weeping aloud, and they cried all night. Their voices rose in a great chorus of protest against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in Egypt, or even here in the wilderness, they complained. Why is the Lord taking us to this country only to have us die in battle? Our wives and our little ones will be carried off as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to return to Egypt? Then they plotted among themselves, let's choose a new leader and go back to Egypt. Then Moses and Aaron fell face down on the ground before the whole community of Israel. Two of the men who had explored the land, Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, tore their clothing. They said to all the people of Israel, the land we have traveled through and explored is a wonderful land. And if the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us safely into that land and give it to us. It is a rich land flowing with milk and honey. Do not rebel against the Lord and do not be afraid of the people of the land. They are only helpless prey to us. They have no protection, but the Lord is with us. Don't be afraid of them. But the whole community began to talk about stoning Joshua and Caleb. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to all the Israelites at the tabernacle. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will these people treat me with contempt? Will they never believe me, even after all the miraculous signs I have done among them? I will disown them.
Go ahead. Go up to 24.
24?
20, yeah, 24.
I will disown them and destroy them with a plague. Then I will make you into a nation greater and mightier than they are. But Moses objected. What will the Egyptians think when they hear about it? He asked the Lord. They know full well the power you displayed in rescuing your people from Egypt. Now, if you destroy them, the Egyptians will send a report to the inhabitants of this land, who are already have heard that you will live among your people. They know, Lord, that you have appeared to your people face to face, and that your pillar of cloud hovers over them. They know that you will go before them in the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. Now, if you slaughter all these people with a single blow, the nations that have heard of your fame will say, the Lord was not able to bring them into the land he swore to give them, so he killed them in the wilderness. Please, Lord, prove that your power is as great as you have claimed. For you said, the Lord is slow to anger and filled with unfailing love, forgiving every kind of sin and rebellion. But he does not excuse the guilty. He lays the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the third and fourth generations. In keeping with your magnificent, unfailing love, please pardon the sins of this people, just as you have forgiven them ever since they left Egypt. Then the Lord said, I will pardon them as you have requested. But as surely as I live, and as surely as the earth is filled with the Lord's glory, not one of these people will ever enter that land. They have all seen my glorious presence and the miraculous signs I performed both in Egypt and in the wilderness. But again and again, they have tested me by refusing to listen to my voice. They will never even see the land I swore to give their ancestors. None of those who have treated me with contempt will ever see it. But my servant Caleb has a different attitude than the others have. He has remained loyal to me, so I will bring him into the land he explored. His descendants will possess their full share of that land.
Did God have an expectation of those people? Did he communicate an expectation there? What was that expectation if he did?
I have concluded.
Go ahead.
I have concluded that God has he has standards and he has expectations for certain groups of people that may not be the same for the another group of people.
Yes.
The standards are the same, but the expectations are specific to the groups of people that he's dealing with.
Yes, because that is true of Nineveh. He sent a message to Nineveh because he had expectations of them. And he sent specific messages to different people, and based on where they were and what their understanding was, they had a certain set of expectations. So yes, that is true.
I agree.
What was his expectations of Nineveh?
So what did he ask them to turn from their ways?
I don't know. I guess that's where my thing is. Like, I don't know if there were expectations of Nineveh. There was a ultimatum presented.
No, so
and if you did this, you did this. If you did this, you get this. Like, I don't know if they're. I guess I'm failing to see the expectations.
So
hope. I hope you. I wish.
Hold on. So what I have seen in I have to find a specific text because I wrote it down, but I have a whole lot of notes here that are all over the place. He has had various communications when the various prophets communicate various things to the various people, and they don't communicate the same thing to all of them. So when he prophesied to Egypt, he prophesied one thing, and his prophecy to the standard he's holding them accountable to is whatever his expectation is in regards to them. And so that's all I'm saying. Nineveh is an example of those people understood what God expected from them and were not living up to it. So when Jonah came with whatever his ultimatum was, they already understood what the expectation was. He wasn't holding them to a standard they weren't aware of. So they were aware of his expectations, which is why he hold them to it.
I hear you.
I just want to add on that with Isaiah, the same thing. He was giving Israel, he gave Judah the messages from the Lord, but the Lord also sent him with messages for the Moabites as well, and Egypt as well. All of these guys that were neighboring, there were some expectations that were communicated to those nations specifically. And so God was punishing everybody at the same time.
Okay.
So yeah. I don't remember how we got to expectations though.
I was going back. I was trying to remember as well.
Because hey. So are we concluded that conversation about forgiveness? Have we figured that out?
Cameron, do you feel like the question was answered? Are there second chances? Sometimes.
Well, what I think where we landed. Well, I think where we landed was that is that I guess there are second chances. It's part of it is that we don't know when the first, second, third, fourth even occurred, right? If we're talking about the Bible. However, it seems that based upon who the audience is, God, Jesus, create an opportunity for forgiveness, but not necessarily absence of consequences. Second chances happen. But I think ultimately, if I apply it to like me, or, as we're talking here, we give an opportunity because ultimately the goal was to preserve the relationship.
I would say, does forgiveness mean a second chance? Yes, for the relationship, but not necessarily for the specific dynamic of the relationship, or the responsibility, or the position, or whatever.
For the act itself that offended the person.
Not necessarily. Yes, it could mean in some instances,
but not necessarily. Yeah.
But
correct.
Forgiveness almost always means a second chance for the relationship. Well, I would say forgiveness is a second chance for the relationship. It's a relationship dynamic. And it doesn't always look the same way for every relationship. And it doesn't necessarily put the relationship back in the exact same space. But it's an attempt to, it facilitates the preserving of a relationship.
The relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's meant to do that.
It's the same dynamics of the relationship.
Not
necessarily the same dynamics of the relationship, but
correct.
the relationship between the individuals or peoples or whatever it is.
Yeah. Lorraine says the second chances don't always look like we expect. And Abby says the relationship can be restored, maybe not the opportunity. I would agree with that.
What does that mean?
So
opportunity.
Let's go with Moses. This relationship with God remained intact, but his opportunity to see the promised land was not restored.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. All right, Courtney, we're going somewhere. We have 15 minutes though.
With what? For like,
you said were we done with that question? You asked were we done with that question?
Oh no, that because you were saying like how do we end up on the
expectations? We were making a point. Then we got tangented on expectations, and I forgot the point that expectations was coming out of.
That was it. I was just trying to help a brother out. That was it.
All right, cool. cool. All right. I know we at 9:46. Maybe we should start doing takeaways, unless there was somebody who had something they wanted to share or raise or.
Can't do 14 minutes of takeaways. Like that's a long takeaway.
Yeah, it is. We finished early. Courtney, you had something. I know you had something.
Man, it was just for me, it was real quick. I mean, we were in Isaiah a little bit already tonight, but I just thought it was interesting from the reading that I kept seeing that through Isaiah, God was telling the people that, or was pointing to this pride that the nation had, that he was having an issue with. And it was a pride, and they were like resting on their spiritual heritage instead of their present reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I said in their present reality, they were living for like present like pleasures without concern of God. But they still felt as though God's presence was there with them, so that they were like kind of untouchable in a sense,
For a sense of security there.
Right. So I was wondering, like, how can that be something that can happen to people that are proclaimed to be believers, followers in Christ, still can have that kind of resting in that. I'm not picking on a particular group or anything like that, but you can. I just can see how some groups can rest on a heritage instead of like a present reality of sorts. Like,
I think, Courtney, one of the things that helped me with that is the Rastafarians.
mm-hmm.
Right? Their hair is a symbol of it's representative of their faith and whatnot. There are a whole rack of people out there who rocking dreads who have nothing to do with Rastafari and that belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very easy to get caught up in the how and miss the what. I think it's very easy to get caught in the forms I go to church on Sabbath. I go to church. I return a faithful tithe. I eat healthy, and miss the what. I'm attempting to be faithful to Jesus, and these things are outgrowths of them. And I think that's very easy. When those things become the norm and become routine, they sometimes lose their value or their significance, or they become significant in and of themselves. Right? Why do we have church that goes for 3 hours? Is that really what God is looking for?
It's funny.
Does it have to be 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning? Like, those things become things in of themselves, and we miss the point. And I think that is part of what happened with those people. Kenneth?
It's funny. I mentioned this to Jewel, my parents, when they were here, and I was watching Naked and Afraid, the XL edition, whatever. Like, I guess they're really naked and they're really afraid. And they
I can't. It's only XL is 21 days for those.
it's just longer. Yeah. But but they but they I a lady and a guy killed a porcupine, and the level, what stood out to me was like the level of thanks that they had for the meal, like, kind of put me in check, because I was just like, I pray over my meal sometimes. I've always been to believe, like, I mean, I've prayed and I thank God for, like, thank you for life and food and all that. Like, that should last me for, 6 months, whatever it is. But I don't think I should pray over every meal. However, it was the level of thanks that they had. So once again, like, the form of praying, right? The form of saying grace, like saying grace, as opposed to being grateful for the fact that I have a meal, right? And like the level of thanks, and they were thanking the porcupine, right? The dead Bama, right? But they were thanking the porcupine for the life that it gave up so that they could have a meal. And I was just like, man, like, I've never done that. Like, I've never truly sat in front of some oxtail and been like, Lord, thank you for the meal that I have, right? Not for the nutrients, not for the high blood pressure or the cholesterol that's about to add, like, whatever, but like, thank you for the meat and the ability to have something in front of me and not be starving, right? Because I could have been. And so as you were talking, like, it was like, I think a lot of times we get very, very comfortable with where we are and those expectations. Like, I expect to have a meal when I get home. Not that Jules going to fix it. I'm just saying, there's food
One
there.
is going to be there. There's going to be food there. There's going to be food in the house.
There's no way I will go without food next week. If I go without food, it's by choice, right? And so I think we get comfortable and we rest on that, not understanding, like, no, like, it is a blessing every time you get to sit down and get sustenance and put food in your body to renew, energy, to, solve for hunger, all of those different things, right? Or just be freaking greedy, right? Like, so after watching that, I was like, man, I had to check myself. And it's like, man, you really have to, like, you can't rest on, like, God, allowed you the opportunity or afforded you the job to be able to go out and purchase food or, whatever it is. So anyway.
So as you say that reminded me of, so growing up in Trinidad, at the time, hot water was a luxury that a lot of people on the island didn't have. If you had to bathe if you had to warm water, you had to wake up early, boil water in the pot, throw it in the bucket. That's all you're getting your hot water, right? It's not coming through the pipe. But because Trinidad hot, the water not really so cold because it's just room temperature water coming in through the pipe. whether the temperature is outside or cold. So technically not really cold. And I say that because I moved up here and I was renting a room in a house in DC, right? And the hot water was coming through a gas tank thing. And the head of the tank got broken. And they couldn't just repair it. We had to repair the whole tank. But then nobody at that time had money to pay to buy a whole tank. And the thing went out in the middle of winter. So I had to learn to bathe with with fridge water coming through the pipe and doing that whole count. In the middle of winter. I remember my mom came to visit during that period. And I tell her, well, let me try and stay somewhere else because we don't have hot water and we can't afford to get hot water right now. She still wanted to come and she managed to hustle through because she just wanted to be with me. But I know that every time I go to a pipe now to bathe and turn on and hot water come, I just give thanks because I know it's like in the middle of winter, could not have it. And so it did change my whole appreciation for stuff, and I say, that is what those people and us to some degree, not to some degree, us as well, when we get settled in things that we are normative, when you turn on the pipe, hot water is going to be there. You don't have the same level of appreciation for it. And I would dare say the people who grow up in it, right, appreciated less than the people who come in. And I say that
absolutely.
So like just on a spiritual level, converts have a different kind of appreciation for the lifestyle of some church communities and groups than people who don't know any differently, and this is just the way we do it, right? And I think one of the things you see with Israel was when the people who was there at the Red Sea and then came over the Jordan with Joshua, they lived a certain way after having had that experience while Joshua was alive. The generations who come after and had just heard the stories and had been living in the promised land were like, yeah. This is all I know. So, God lives there. You can see him every day. That's just how it is. And you take it for granted. You don't fully appreciate it and you minimize it. And that's human nature. We do it for all kinds of things, every day. I know people who leave out of America and go to other countries and have to stand in the line in the bank and go, what is this? Take me back to mobile banking, please. What
you
is
go
this?
To a bank?
I'm telling you. And you have to go to the bank at a certain time of day because the bank not open all day.
Yeah. My parents were up here and they were like, we got to go to the bank. I was like, what? Like, you're going to like the physical location? Or are you on online?
No,
you
who
going
does
to the
that?
bank? Like, no.
Oh, man.
Exactly. So, yeah. I do want to thank you for that, Courtney. Because it's almost 10, I want to transition to the takeaways. But in addition to the takeaway, if you have one, what are the conversation around, or you can merge it into your takeaway? What are the conversation where we settled on what forgiveness involves or not involved? How will that, or how does that impact any relationships that you might have, or the relationships that you have? So that you can include that as part of your takeaway. If your takeaway is already there, then you only have the one part. But
okay.
So I'll go first, just as a illustration. My takeaway was after we processed to come into the realization that there is a second chance component, and that it has to do with the preservation of the relationship, and then how we were able to, through the examples, reveal that forgiveness has relationship to consequence and those kinds of things, but it's separate and apart from those things. They're not blended together the way that we had it before. So that's kind of my takeaway. And what it does for my relationships, it is I think I may have had the idea that that restoration well, I guess the relationship restoration is a part of it, but restoration to the way that the relationship was is not necessary, and that the relationships can, will, and sometimes do have to change. The circumstance has to change. The consequences are almost sometimes necessary. Um, but the emphasis in forgiveness is the relationship. Um, and being able to make that adjustment changes the way I will start to relate to people when I am offender or when I am offended. Um, that emphasis shift was significant for me today. So anybody else can go next.
All right, I'll jump in there. My takeaway is, man, just something like forgiveness. I think I would have processed it or felt like I understood it, but I definitely learned a lot about it tonight. My takeaway is just that, you know, when we study together like this, you know, I really believe that scripture in Isaiah talking about, you know, precept upon precept, just understanding that oftentimes we don't receive all the aspects of, you know, that the message is from the word at once. And I just find that there's always more to to hear, no matter how advanced you might have been or mature in the word as you feel. And from a personal standpoint, for forgiveness, man, I just have to evaluate myself, man. To be honest, and I'm just thinking about it. You know, which aspects do I take? I think sometimes if I feel offended, I think oftentimes I don't know how many times a relationship would continue. You know, to be honest, like I'm really trying to think about that. It would be easy for me to kind of just. I don't even know if I declare a relationship is over. It would just be you just kind of just distance. You know, so
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I've been kind of wrestling with myself for that because of our studies. Like, yeah, am I doing the right thing by kind of just letting things kind of just go there? You know, we just go our separate ways, or are we supposed to? So that is reinforced tonight for me. Like, is that the right way? And if there should be some type of whether it's I guess it's on me if I'm thinking about it. What do I need to do to go forward to have some still be in relationship with people that I might have felt offended by, you know, in the past, you know, whether it be close family or just, you know, friend.
How about you, Jerry?
Wow. So many takeaways though. Kind of touching on what you just said, Courtney. I realize as I've gotten older, people just don't offend me as easily, so I don't see a need to forgive as much. What I have found, which is really interesting, is where people like get up. You know, there's a Jared. We won't name names, but we'll use the example of a couple of weeks ago, right, where people are like moving weird with me, and it's like I ain't even done. I don't even know why. What? And it doesn't bother me. It doesn't fade me. It's like okay. So in thinking about it tonight, I'm like, okay, maybe in some of those instances, I should try to at least, figure out what's up, see how the relationship could be maintained, if at all. Um, even if there are elements of the dynamic that change. That is that whole changing of the dynamic is big for me because what I would do before is just end the relationship, right? And it's there
Like a
are ways.
formal ending, or you just like
Oh
to
no,
keep
I
it
think
going.
I just
You
morph. No,
just
no, I'll just wander off, and you get the
yeah,
you get
yeah,
the I
okay,
ghost you, right? You get the
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
don't
yeah,
call no more. That 6K you owe me, all right. But no, it's
God.
what calls us to do is really, it's not just um cutting ties like that. It's maybe the dynamic, maybe that one thing might need to change, but you can still have a relationship with them. Yeah. And I think, at least for me, do I want to say that after? No, I'll say no. I think maybe sometimes it's because I think sometimes I'm just super nice, maybe too nice and too affable, too accommodating. So I think sometimes I would draw a line because I don't trust myself to keep them in check. And I might just inadvertently be like, oh, sure, you owe me 10 grand. Here's another 10 grand. And then I'll be like, okay, the best way to protect me
So I have nothing to do with you.
it's me, it's not you, right? But yeah, that's definitely something I need to work on and see how, if possible, we maintain a relationship and just certain elements or dynamics might change.
I got you. Henrik?
One of the takeaways is Courtney's point when he was reading. The last one is just being comfortable. I think being comfortable is like one of the most dangerous in anything, right? Not just in your relationship with God, but just like in anything, your relationship with your wife. Like once you're comfortable, and I'm comfortable, right? But I think it's a dangerous spot, and so that really stood out to me. As far as the forgiveness, I don't know, man. I don't get offended. Like there's nothing. I don't know. I've always been a people over process kind of guy. And I've always believed that I'll kind of create my own terms, and my own terms are by choice. And so I'm choosing to be in this relationship or in relation with you. And so because it's my choice to be in there, if you offend me or do something that like it was my choice, like I'm not going to hold it against you because I'm choosing to be here. And I've kind of always operated that way. So I can't remember the last time I forgave someone or needed to forgive someone. I've had beef with like one of my boys. He probably still has beef with me now. Like I was just like, I mean, my bad. You said this and I did that, and now you're mad, and like I'm sorry you're mad, but I did exactly what we talked about me doing. And I texted him the other day, like, yo, happy birthday, bro. And I got nothing back, which is fine. Right? It's just, and so I just, I chose to be in a relationship with you. So like, I will be in a relationship with you. And I'm cool. I'm not mad. I'm not, so I guess that's always, so I don't know where to go from there. It does give me perspective on the relationship side, like always being cognizant of, continue to be cognizant of the relationship, because once again, people over process, that doesn't necessarily be right. I'm just saying that's me. But the relationship is important at all costs.
You might be further along than most of us, Kenneth.
Just only there.
Only there.
If I am further along, I'm only there. I've regressed in so many other ways.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
Hey, you can't have all the gifts, right?
No.
No, absolutely not.
How about you,
the other 99 that send me to hell?
It's interesting listening to you guys. I'm like the complete opposite in that if I have an inkling that there's a problem, like, yo, we got beef. That's where we at right now. Like, and a lot of people take it as being confrontational and being aggressive, but
a little aggressive.
And they look at it negatively aggressive, but in reading, that's what's supposed to happen. Like, I'm really supposed to come to you and be like, yo, we got beef. Like,
that is what's supposed to happen.
well, what's the deal? And it's not that you offended me or I offended you. It's just you walking different, you talking different, and I just want to know if we got beef, right? And I've always felt, I should say that people have tried to make me feel bad about that approach because I don't do well in the middle ground. Like, I'd rather know we have beef and we didn't fix it than to be thinking whether or not we have beef. So, like, people like Courtney or people like Jerome, if y'all just go, you just what? Like, I don't even know what just happened. Like, tell me you don't like me and we can move forward with this. So in so many ways, I feel like this conversation helped me to determine that what I'm doing is probably right. How I'm doing may not be how everybody likes to receive it. However, the what and the why was confirmed or affirmed today, and yeah, maybe I'm not the last car on the Christian train. Maybe the second to last. Maybe I'm not that far back no more. So that was really the takeaway. But I really don't like y'all type of people that just be ghosting people. Like, I'm gonna need y'all to stop doing that. Like, I'm gonna need y'all to not do that no more. Like, I feel like there are people like me out there.
You shouldn't ghost people.
No. Like, hey, let me say something. If you and I are gonna stop talking, I'm telling you, I'm not talking to you no more. Like, that's it. And there's no question about it when I don't hit you up no more. That's just me.
I put people's names on my phone so I know who I'm ghosting.
No, guys, we're gonna talk about this in the after show. Like, you should alert someone if you're gonna ghost them. Okay, it's not ghosting at that point. Yes. That's an after hours discussion. I don't. Yeah, we're an after hours. But anyway,
it's a polite thing to do.
Lord, thank you for letting these people reveal themselves. A better expectation with this group of people.
Hey, I know my issues. That's it. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying I'm not chasing after it. That's what I'm saying. You don't speak, I don't speak. I'm cool. It's all right.
Again, Father, open their
it'll work its way out.
Yeah. If I see you again, you can cross that bridge.
Ow.
It's unchristlike.
Not unchristlike. Christ.
Oh, Lorraine, she's trolling. Stop.
It's so much better just to tell somebody that I'm done.
Can I say Holy Ghosting? Can it be Holy Ghosting?
Holy Ghosting.
Yeah, look at you. Jesus would do the whole thing, he'd call you, what was it? A whitewashed grave with men's bones inside, and then So
but Jesus also got upset with people because he knew that he had limited time. Like, he was like, I'm really gonna ghost y'all because I'm leaving.
At least he announced it day after day, year after
year.
Right,
I'm leaving.
Get it.
I was like, so he told him, he could tell him whitewash too. He could do all that kind of stuff because he was like, I'm dying. Y'all are gonna kill me, and I'm gonna leave. So.
So it's not ghosting if I tell you I'm leaving. Okay?
I think that might be the definition of holy ghosting.
Y'all be out here.
that is holy ghosting.
Y'all a bunch of Caspers out here, just friendly ghosts, just walking around.
I'm gonna still pray for them, though. We'll pray for them.
No, it doesn't count. It doesn't count at that point.
It does.
It is. It's a silent request.
It don't.
I don't hate you. Still love.
All right, guys, we're going to the after show because we're going to deal with this on a separate note because this is a problem.
Yeah.
It's a big issue.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation and for joining us today, being a part of this conversation as we are kicking off year 9. We're still doing it every first and third Friday at 8:00, and we, because of our forum, we have space to include other people to be a part of our conversation. So if ever you'd like to join the conversation and actually participate in real time with live audio and video, because the chat is cool, but there's a different dynamic when you get to chime in real time. Just hit us up and we can see how we can make those accommodations. We're still following the Bible reading plan, which if you don't have it or lost your copy, you can download from the app. Yeah, just read with us and then come bring your thoughts, whatever your thoughts are, whatever they look like, whatever it is, things you're excited about, things you like, things you don't like, things that concern you. Have you all ever returned Paul his name? Is he still Pablo, or have we given him back his Paul?
He's still Pablo.
Yo, I'm getting down with him.
With Paul?
He's
still Pablo?
He's still Pablo, but he's yeah.
Wow.
So I just said that to draw that they still don't fully agree with him, which is why they've given him a new name, and that's all right too. 9 years in or 8 years in, and he's still Pablo. So.
It's growth. It's growth.
It is growth. We might even read Psalms this year.
Read it once.
We might read it together. We might read Psalms together this year.
Psalms together.
But yeah, man, we appreciate you guys for all the time that you've given to us, and we'll see you again the next time we are on, which is first Friday in September. Before we part and head out, Jerry, would you pray for us?
Yes, sir. Dear Father, we just want to thank you for these moments of reflection that allow us to gain insight on all of our experiences. And we pray that your spirit would continue to be with us to help us to apply that insight, that it would be of benefit to us and all those we interact with. In your precious name, amen.
Amen. Abby, Dante, Lauren, Donnell, Vanessa, appreciate you guys for chiming in the chat. Anybody else who's on there we don't actually see, but been with us the whole evening and are still here. Appreciate you. Good to see you guys. We'll hopefully connect with you first Friday in September. Until then, drink up, drink deeply.
Drink up.
Yeah.